stick with Trey. So we've seen that he has tweaked, maybe you could say overhauled his throwing mechanics, at least in the offseason with t-shirts and shorts on. Does this change your stance about Trey? I feel like 6 months ago, you were a little down on his throwing mechanics and his ability to improve them. Now he seems like he has. How much does this mean to you? How much stock do you put into this? Because I've heard you call him a franchise quarterback. I've heard you say the Niners have too.
I believe he is.
Yeah.
I think, Grant, that people first of all, I think we could all agree on this. We're a very impatient group of fans. We're more impatient now than ever before. History tells us that most quarterbacks take time to develop, but we're in an instant gratification world. And then inside that instant gratification world, the 49ers drafted a quarterback that was the most inexperienced quarterback in 40 years of first-round draft choices. Nobody had thrown fewer passes. Then you mix in the level that he was at, the FCS level, where and the dominant team that he was on. He could get away with all kinds of.
And the year off because of COVID. I mean,
there's that too. But I mean,
yeah.
I think even at North Dakota State, that they're like the Bama times 10 of the FCS. And
yeah.
I just
they
think
can
that
do whatever and win, right?
Easton Stick was awesome there. Is Easton Stick an NFL quarterback? No. Carson Wentz was awesome there. Is Carson Wentz kicking butt in the NFL right now? No. So I just think that we want it right now, but it's a process, and he's going through the process. And I think this cleaning up his mechanics was the first step in the process. Now it's about overall when the bullets are flying and the D linemen are rolling by you, can you stay with your mechanics and just play the position efficiently? And that means throwing with timing and throwing with accuracy. And yeah, in your ideal windup and your ideal release and throw, you've got the mechanics down. But in an NFL game, if you make 25 throws in a game, how many of those throws are you making with your ultimate mechanics? I watch Mahomes complete shuffle passes and backwards passes, and sometimes you got to rush it, sometimes you got to shorten it. So to me, how will Trey play in games versus live action versus NFL defenses? The quickening of the release is nice, but it's not a coverall. He needs to improve his accuracy, his timing, and I think there's one other element. Steve Young, I thought, played his entire career with what I would call third down goal line type urgency. That's what it takes to make plays on third down in the NFL. You have to have that urgency. You have to be like Mahomes has it, and I think it was brought to life by this quarterback's Netflix show where you're getting to hear live Mike Mahomes and you're getting to getting a glimpse into the competitor that he really is. I think it's now that you've got better mechanics, cleaner mechanics, that's good, and I think it's essential. But now can you translate it to the field under duress and throw with accuracy and timing and play with urgency and move the team and score points? That's it.
I'm intrigued that you think he's a franchise quarterback if you have those questions about him. Those are huge questions.
But he's a young player. And we're talking, I'll say this, and I've said this a few times. In my mind, I know Trey's going to get there. Why? Because I know it's important to him. He's physical. He's got the physical gifts. He's got the mental gifts. He's got the desire. He wants to be great. But it doesn't mean that it's going to happen by August 1st or by September 10th at Heinz Field. I think it's still a process. And my concern is that the 49ers don't stick with him long enough to see it through to completion because they get impatient. They drafted a raw quarterback. They know they drafted a raw quarterback, but do they know exactly how raw? And are they willing to go to the finish line with him, or are they going to cut bait if it doesn't happen by the second preseason game or if it doesn't happen in this camp? I know he's going to get there because it's not rocket science and he's got all the traits and it's going to happen, but I don't know that I see the same thing with Trey that I saw with Alex Smith coming out. Alex Smith he was smart, he was athletic, football was important to him, came from a football family, and I knew that he would get it going at some point. But Harbaugh showed up in his eighth year. Eighth year. I mean, this is year 3. So it's a process. And I just hope the Niners
Sometimes you got to find the right coach. Sometimes it's not all about the player. Sometimes it's about the relationship.
And there's just because you got a great distance to travel doesn't mean that he's not going to travel it. I really believe in the kid because I've had scouts that I know personally who said, you know what, this kid's gonna get it because he's gonna click every box, he's gonna check off every hurdle, he's gonna be up to the task, but it's gonna take some time. Now the question is how much more time does it take from here?
So we're talking. Let's come back to the original question. Changing our stances on Trey. I think the Niners have. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the Niners' stance on Trey this offseason was, look, he's not a bust, but he's just behind the curve in this development because of injuries, and we have Brock, so screw it. We're going with Brock. And Trey, we're kind of you're kind of left for dead at this point. You know, anything that you do is on you at this point. And so he goes out, finds his coach, comes back, and the Niners are like, oh, like, what a pleasant surprise. I think they're pleasantly surprised. I think they're probably happy that no one wanted to trade for him during the draft. They made it pretty clear he was available. We asked, and he was like, hey, anyone's available, right? Like, he was available.
They cleared enough cap room the day before the draft to move off of him if they wanted.
They tried. There was no market. It was reported. I think the Niners are probably happy that they didn't sell low on Trey Lance as he was improving. I think they're probably like, hey, that worked out. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but I think that they're a little amused, tickled, hopeful for the first time in a while. I think that's kind of a nice little silver lining. Maybe I'm misreading it.
I don't think you're misreading it. I just think that instead of I think they looked at it last year and said, hey, look, we handed him the keys to the car. This year, we're going to make him absolutely earn it, and we're not talking him up. We're not going to sing his praises. We're not going to say anything positive about him. Guys like me, I think, misread that as potentially they wanted to move him. But I think that more than anything, I think what they wanted to do is challenge him to get better. They knew he needed a ton of work to do. They knew that he needed to put in a ton of work. And instead of being glowing about him and positive about him, they kept their positive comments to his character and who he was and not his football. And I'm sure he read that as they don't believe in me, and it probably motivated him. That's my guess.
I would think so too. Matthew Sanders says, Grant, I just wanted to chime in and say Suits is valid. Have you been watching Suits? Have you seen the show?
No.
Suits?
I haven't watched it.
I've been watching. Do you think Kyle is Mike or Harvey? Kyle is Mike or Harvey? Kyle, Mike or Harvey? Kyle's Mike. He's Mike. Trick question. He's Louis Litt. Everyone knows he's I like Louis Litt. Is Louis Litt like the one Jew on the show that they don't mention is Jewish? He's like, how are you going to have this whole law firm with no Jews in it? What are you talking about? I'm sorry. We kind of run that. I'm just kidding. But I think that's what Louis is, which kind of pisses me off.